welcome to Week 5 of Fantasy Football Live. I'm Amanda Borges, and I am joined here on set by Brad Evans and Tank Williams.
We missing the Rev.
He's trapped in a box right now.
He is trapped in a box. That is Andy Behrens, who we're referring to, and he's in Chicago today. Good morning, Andy.
Yeah, coming to you live from the Sage Goddess Studios here in Chicago. I'm sorry I can't be there with you.
We
Shout
miss
out to
you.
the kale smoothie. Yeah.
We miss you, Andy. We also have some help from Liz Loza and Matt Harmon down in LA this morning. Hey guys, what's trending this morning?
I'm just jealous that we are not also in the Sage Goddess studio. That is definitely where I'd rather be broadcasting from than this green screen contraption we have.
I mean, but Andy, do you have the bee pollen that we have in Los Angeles? Probably not.
No chance.
All right, well, we will check in with them throughout the show. Now, last but not least, here in our Sunnyvale studio, we have our resident DJ Bebop Rock.
DJ!
Good morning. Apparently, my new DJ name going forward is DJ Sage Goddess. So you can address me like that from here on out.
I love how we're keeping that theme going.
Dude, if we're not going to gift basket from Sage Goddess, there's something terribly wrong with our show.
We'll work on it. We'll work on it. All right, well, with all the pleasantries out of the way, let's get into who's in and who's out this week. The inactive lists have begun to trickle in. Steelers wideout Juju Smith-Schuster is active. Now, he was a game-time decision with a toe injury. Vikings receiver Stephon Diggs did miss practice this week, and we've heard some rumors about his happiness in Mini, but he will suit up against the Giants today. Patriots wideout Julian Edelman will play through that nagging chest injury, and in the afternoon, Devontae Adams is out for today in Dallas thanks to the turf toe injury he suffered last Thursday. Now, remember, this show is all about you. So get your roster questions answered on social media by hitting up at Yahoo Fantasy using the AskFFL hashtag, or you can call in. The number is 877-FFL-GURU, and we'll get to as many calls as we can throughout the show. Remember, that's 877-FFL-GURU. All right, let's jump right into this week's Fantasy Face-Off presented by Gemini Man, the ultimate showdown of youth versus experience. Starring Will Smith as an elite assassin hunted by a younger, enhanced clone of himself, Brad and Tank are deciding between young versus old at the quarterback position from the same game, actually, in terms of filling out your daily fantasy.
Tank, what do we call Andy Dalton?
The Gingerfist.
And yes, we have Andy Dalton and Kyler Murray. Same game, different names here. It is the elderly one here in this case, the older version of
Who
Will
has
Smith.
the better matchup.
Well, I mean, they're both
Slightly.
delightful matchups
Yeah,
across
they're both
the board
delightful, but
here.
his is slightly better.
But so are you going to side with Dalton?
Hell no.
All right, so tell me why you like Kyler Murray.
So the reason I like Kyler Murray is that he has a good matchup, not as good as Andy's, but I really like the floor of his legs. They like to play with a lot of pace. I think that, you know, they may be playing from down and playing away, and so he's going to be throwing the ball around a lot. And the thing is that whenever Andy Dalton has that matchup that he can't fail, that's when he gives you that ginger fist. So I'm just banking on him screwing it up somehow. Therefore, Kyler Murray's the man.
I fear the great pumpkin that is Andy Dalton. It is October, after all, and it's pumpkin spice season, and I think he's going to be bringing a lot of that today. Why? Arizona giving up 8.5 pass yards per attempt, close to 290 pass yards per game, 2.5 vertical strikes per game to the quarterback position. So I don't think you can lose with either one of these cats today.
Oh, really?
You can't. Look, truth be told, because Andy Behrens dared me to do it, I have an Andy Dalton and Tyler Eifert and Joe Mixon stack in our little DFS competition. So I'm rolling with Andy Dalton because the sun is up, it is not down, and usually when the lights are on and not the artificial ones, the natural ones, Andy Dalton arrives. 300
When
plus.
you need him
multiple
most, that's when the ginger fist arrives too. So we
I'm
will
telling you,
see.
man, it's going to be a bounce back. Recency bias is a hell of a drug, and Andy Dalton's going to get it done today, though I do like Kyler Murray. Back to
So
you.
we did throw up a poll, as we always do every
Oh, I know Kyler Murray's
We
won
let
this
the
one.
viewers decide who's a better play here, and Kyler Murray wins.
I win. Yeah, what was the percentage split?
78%.
78%, see? I knew it.
All right, nice work, guys. Don't forget to check out Gemini Man in theaters Friday, October 11th. Time now for Off Their Game. These are players who are more than 50% owned in Yahoo leagues, but our experts don't think they'll be very hot this week. So Liz and Matt will hand this off to you.
You want to take this first, or shall I just throw
Well,
a
you
Jets?
started talking, so you
Well,
go
there we
now.
go. Jets running back Le'Veon Bell is a guy that I'm not really into this week, and I think it's pretty obvious. Like, number one, they're starting a quarterback in Luke Falk, who took 0 practice reps as the starting quarterback this week because, Sam Darnold's out there deciding whether he wants to risk his life for the Adam Gase Jets. He's not going to play. Falk is going to be under center. And the Eagles right now are one of those classic funnel defenses that are really pushing things through the air. They're number 1 in passing yards allowed per game. However, they're third to last in terms of yards per carry allowed to running backs. So this is a team that definitely funnels things through the air. They have a great run defense, terrible pass defense. I don't see Le'Veon Bell, putting up a ton of points here. Maybe he gets a ton of volume through the air, little check downs, that sort of thing, but that's not something that I'm really expecting in terms of an RB1 type performance. So there's a lot of players I like better than Bell this week.
I am going to go with Aaron Rodgers. I know last Thursday it looked like the magic was back for a night at least because Rodgers was the QB2 in fantasy, torching a banged-up Philadelphia Eagles secondary for 422 passing yards and a bunch of scores. And he looked great, but this week he's got Dallas, and the Cowboys' pass defense is pretty good. They've only given up 3 touchdowns so far on the season to opposing receivers. So, this matchup is going to be tough. And also, he's not going to be with Devontae Adams. I just think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. You're going to see a lot of Zeke Elliott in this one, and I think he's going to come back down to earth. He's my QB 13 on the week.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Let's get to our first quick slant of the show. The Arizona Cardinals are on the road in Cincinnati. Brad and Tank just talked about this. Both teams are looking for their first win, and both are also down a few pass catchers. So let's put 90 seconds on the clock and talk about a game we normally wouldn't want to talk about.
Oh, this is a game only a fantasy owner could love, quite honestly. What's really fascinating about this is the total in this game has diminished. It's now at 46.5, and I think this game's got a ton of shootout appeal because the inadequacies of both of these defenses, Tank.
Yeah.
But let's start off first with the wide receivers of the Cincinnati Bengals because this is a delectable matchup on paper. As I mentioned, 8.5 yards per attempt the Arizona Cardinals have given up. Auden Tate is a very popular name. He doesn't have, an extraordinary skill set by any stretch of the imagination.
Big body.
But he's a big-bodied Devin Funchess type of guy. He's only $10 in the Yahoo DFS game. Would you dare plug and play him in your season long?
Absolutely. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. This is one of those game flows where you can see the ball is like both of the sides of the ball, just throwing the ball around a lot. I think Auden Tate is in play here.
Tyler Eifert's definitely in play.
Tyler Eifert in play because, it's just a damn funnel when it comes to, tight end touchdowns against Arizona. And then on the flip side, you have Christian Kirk out. And so Larry Fitzgerald is going to be a monster. You may see some DJ in the slot. And I think this is a really good setup for DJ as well. So, just plug in those guys. The only thing we have to hope for is that they actually put the ball in the end zone because a lot of times Andy Dalton throws interceptions and Kyler ends up kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns.
Barron's, you look at Joe Mixon, he's been a bit enigmatic so far this season. I've got him ranked as a top 10 running back this week. Are you in agreement with me?
I am in agreement with you. The one great thing about both of these defenses, really, you've mentioned it, they both give up over 8.5 yards per pass attempt and over 4.5 yards per carry. So everybody who's going to get volume on both sides is definitely in play. If it doesn't happen for Mixon here, I don't know if it's going to happen.
All right, well, it should be a fun one, regardless.
Play everybody.
just go.
Play them all.
Well, we know you've got some roster questions, so let's kick it on down to Liz and Matt, who are answering all your questions via our social channels. Who are we helping this morning, guys?
Helping all the people. On Twitter, we've got a great question that has come in from Dan Margrilla. I don't know about all these. I hate having to read these Twitter names. But nevertheless, they ask in a standard scoring league, they got 2 questions. Number 1, should they play Darren Waller or Greg Olsen? How do you feel about this one? I think both these are pretty good players to have.
I think with Tyrell Williams, so this game we should say is in London, but that's not going to affect my analysis much in terms of this piece of it because Tyrell Williams is a long shot to play. He's got a foot he's been battling. He has scored a touchdown every single week. This is a standard scoring league, but I think because Williams is either going to be limited or probably out, I'm going to lean towards Darren Waller because the volume is just there. And maybe Darren Waller will finally score his first touchdown of the the season in this contest against the Bears.
I'm with you too. I'm playing Waller in a DFS lineup as well. I think that volume that you mentioned, he's running as many routes as any tight end. He's basically a wide receiver. So I think he's the play here. Now for the second question, Austin Eckler or Wayne Gallman, I think you got to go Eckler here.
Yep.
I still expect him to lead this backfield in snaps, in touches, in targets especially, with Melvin Gordon kind of getting his first official week back. So I really like him in this spot against Denver, who's just a middling defense at best.
I agree as well. And also Gallman's matchup is not as juicy as it was last week against the Minnesota Vikings. This week, he is a workman-type player. He does not have the same explosive skill set that Saquon Barkley has. So I know you're thinking, oh, maybe he'll fall into the end zone and get you a touchdown. But I think Eckler's overall appeal bests Gallman's in week 5.
Yeah, it's nice that we're going to see Gallman playing a real NFL team this week and not the one that inhabits Washington. Now, moving on. Fear thy Batman. I can read that one pretty well. Is it safe to start Diggs today or bench him for MVS, who will, of course, be potentially Aaron Rodgers' #1 receiver today?
Start Diggs. I am leaning in 100% to the greasy wheel, right? Isn't it the squeaky wheel?
Gets the grease.
Yeah,
We're hoping he becomes the greased wheel.
He is going to be all sorts of greased, streaking up and down the field against the very, very vulnerable secondary that the Giants are putting on the field. I mean, I just want to say it because Brad always gets to it first, but DeAndre Baker, touchdown maker, Diggs is going to have a great time today.
Yeah, I could
Also, great prices in DFS.
Yeah, it's only $20. Kirk Cousins is also quite low, too.
Yeah.
I think I could see Mike Zimmer being the guy who just pops the tire on the squeaky wheel, and that's the type of coach he is.
Yep.
But nevertheless, I really like this as sort of a bounce. But, the team they're not going to trade Diggs. They have all the incentive in the world to push some volume his way.
And maybe showcase them ahead of the trade deadline, which is October 29th coming up.
Yeah. Last question we have here from Heidi. She asks, Mike Williams, Emmanuel Sanders, Mohamed Sanu, or Deontay Johnson. She's got to choose 3 of those.
3 of these goofballs.
3 of these goofballs. But I actually think I'm going to go ahead and play Emmanuel Sanders. I'm going to play Mike Williams. And I'm going to play Jordan Howard.
Yep, we are on the exact same page here. Deontay Johnson has scored in back-to-back weeks, and he was one of my fantasy damage players last week, but both of those touchdowns have been quite fluky. So I agree with you. Give me Mike Williams, even with the bad back. Give me Emmanuel Sanders, even with maybe a tough matchup, and then give me Jordan Howard with the end zone appeal.
I love it. And remember, you can ask us questions on Twitter. If you'd like the actually correct answers, go to @Yahoo Fantasy, hashtag AskFFL. Dalton Del Don is handling the questions there, and Dalton is a sharp man. He's on top of things. But we will also be interacting with our chat room here as well. So if you got some stuff to say, if you got to talk some junk, hop in the chat room there.
Thank you, guys. It's time for Shootout or Shut Down. The gang here will dissect and dispute a couple matchups based on high and low point totals. So let's begin with a Sunday night affair with the Chiefs hosting the Colts, guys.
Yeah, we got a lot of question marks injury-wise tied to this one, and the total's spectacular. It's at 56.5. Kansas City favored by a hefty 11 points. I like the Colts to cover in this one, by the way, and maybe that's tipping my hand to fade the noise a little bit later on. But let's talk about the backfields of both these respective franchises, and let's start with Kansas City because Damian Williams practiced this week. He's expected to play tonight. He's missed the last couple of weeks due to that nettlesome hamstring injury. Tank, what do you think the distribution and touches is going to be? I mean, Darrell Williams has got to be lower on the totem pole now that Damian is back, but is LaShawn McCoy still in the catbird seat?
I mean, it seems like Shady would be the guy. I mean, they went out and they got Shady for a reason. We know that he's a pretty dynamic guy in the run and the pass. And so, I mean, I think when you look at it from, like, the shoot-down and shutdown perspective, like, the Chiefs are involved. The Colts defense, they're missing Leonard. And so, no matter what, like, the Chiefs are going to score a lot of points. And so, whether it's McCoy, Kelsey has a really good matchup against the Colts defense because tight ends have done well against them, or we have T.Y. back, so that, helps energize the Colts offense. And so, therefore, we're looking for the ball to be going back and forth a lot. Thus, the points are definitely going to go.
I think McCoy's a top 20 running back this week. I think Damian Williams is a top 24 running back this week. You look at the Colts, they've allowed the 10th most fantasy points and 5.9 yards per carry the running back position. Barons, let's talk about the other side of the ball and the RBs of the Colts. Marlon Mack is a full-blown game-time decision. Should you encourage people to go out and get a Naheem Hines or Jordan Wilkins, knowing that Kansas City has a lot of shortcomings in the trenches?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking up Naheem Hines a little bit later in the show. He had a couple games last year in which he had 9 receptions. He's a really good player. And in a game where, especially in the second half, you got to figure the Colts are probably playing a little catch-up in this one. that's going to be the Hines show because they don't throw to Marlon Mack. He's got 4 catches on the season this year, only had 17 last year. So whatever Mack does in this game, assuming he's good to go, it's going to need to happen in the first half because I think the second half is really going to belong to Hines.
All right, let's go to the next one here. On the other side of the coin, we've got Jags, we've got Panthers. Only 40.5 is the total here. Carolina laying 3. Tank, not exactly all that exciting, but man, it seems like every other question I'm getting is about DJ Chark. Yeah. Do you think he finds the end zone today? Carolina has been rather unyielding against the pass.
That's the thing. I mean, I think Carolina's defense is pretty underrated. They've been able to pressure the quarterback at an alarming rate. And, you know, Jags, Minshew's been playing well, but at the same time, he's still a really young quarterback. And if they can flush him a little bit, that's going to affect Chark and his ability to get into the end zone. So I think he probably has the best opportunity out of all the wide receiving threats in Jacksonville. But I mean, it's not like it's one of those things where it's definitely going to happen. But I have to play him in the season long, so that tells you how I have a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Bradbury's only given up a 32 passer rate to his assignments. Barons, let's stick with the wide receiver theme, but let's go to the other side here and talk about Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. Kyle Allen took a major step back after a breakout performance in Arizona a couple of weeks ago. Where do you have Moore and Samuel? Are they even wide receiver 3 worthy in 12-teamers?
Yeah, I've got him as fringy wide receiver 2/ wide receiver 3s. This has actually been a sneaky good matchup for opposing receivers. Jacksonville has allowed the 8th most fantasy points to opposing wideouts and the 11th most to opposing quarterbacks. So you can move the ball against them through the air. No Ramsey today. I think, though, for long stretches of this game, it's just going to feel like Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey in single combat, right? Like that's basically what this is going to come down to. But I think each of these guys, Moore and Samuel, have a shot at maybe 8 targets in this one. A slight lean to Samuel if I have to choose between them, but I don't think either one of them is a wide receiver 1.
Just putting a cherry on top of the sundae. Greg Olsen, you got him, play him. I mean, he has been the apple of Kyle Allen's eye, and Jacksonville has been vulnerable to tight end this year, so I like him quite a bit.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Now, we've got to take our first break, but hang tight, because when we come back, we're talking zombies, so stay with us. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live here on Yahoo Sports. Thanks for hanging with us. The Walking Dead returns for season 10, and Brad will decide who will be fantasy zombies in week 5. And we've got a few players with some tough matchups this week, so who will be a walker and who's going to survive, Brad?
That's right. Who's going to be feasting on the flesh of your team today, potentially? And we've got some big names here, so let's go ahead and start off with Le'Veon Bell. Luke Falk expected to draw the start because of Sam Darnold and the concerns about his spleen tied to the mononucleosis. Not a great matchup on paper, at least on the ground. The Philadelphia Eagles giving up just 2.9 yards per carry at the running back position, the 4th fewest fantasy points as well. However, they've given up 6.8 receptions per game. I don't think Le'Veon finds the end zone, and for that reason, yeah, his flesh is going to be melting away, sadly. Could be 80, 90 combined yards, but again, no score. Kind of a hollow effort, though I still do like him in PPR. Matt Ryan got over 300 yards in every single game this season. A guy that's actually averaging 331.3 yards per game, 2+ touchdowns in 3 of his last 4. You get Houston that can be beat through the air. At least they've shown that at times. However, they've allowed the 11th fewest fantasy points at quarterback position, and every single one of the active DBs in this defensive backfield below 100 passer rating allowed. Again, I think it's going to be kind of a hollow day, another 300+ yards, but no multi-TDs. Guess what, Matt Ryan? You too are zombified. Going to Aaron Jones in a game that's going to be a war of attrition, I feel, against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys rank inside the top 10 in fewest fantasy points allowed to the running back position, but that number is deceiving. It's a little bit deceptive because they've allowed 4.5 yards per carry to RBs. Aaron Jones going to be the main man. No Jamal Williams in this game. Volume shouts. It screams in fantasy land. I think Aaron Jones survives. I'm banking on at least 80 to 90 combined yards and a touchdown. And then finally, Odell Beckham. Oh, where art thou, old school Odell Beckham. Wide receiver 25 right now in terms of overall fantasy points per game production. He's only found the end zone twice, though he's averaged 77 yards per game. Now you get San Francisco. Revived, refreshed, refocused off the bye week. I know Witherspoon is out in this defensive backfield. Richard Sherman, he's usually tied to one side, still playing at a very high level, giving up right around a 60 passer rating to his assignments. Knowing the shortcomings of this offensive line, Odell Beckham, sorry, bro, but you are a part of the Walking Dead. I think it's less than 75 yards and no touchdown for OBJ this week. Borges, back to you.
Thank you very much, Brad. Don't forget to check out the latest season of The Walking Dead, premiering tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, or stream anytime on the AMC app. All right, let's see who Matt and Liz are helping this morning. Hey, guys, what's buzzing over there?
We are dialed in on our chat room.
Trying to set my own dang lineups with all these injuries, I'll be honest.
I know. I have like Tyrell Williams in every league, and it's a real pain right now.
I'm going to take some of my own advice, which we'll get to later, but let's help everyone else first. Matt, you have thoughts about
Let's
stuff.
help people. Nicole from Facebook asks us, do you play Melvin Gordon today? Obviously, he was sort of less than eased in last week, but are we firing up Gordon in this matchup against the Broncos?
I'm not scared. I'm definitely going to play him. I understand he's going to be eased in, blah, 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 and Austin Eckler has earned the role that he will have. I think Austin Eckler is obviously the better play, who will see a lot of work in the passing game, but they did not. Matt and I have a philosophical difference about how Melvin Gordon will be used moving forward, but I just feel like, why not use him up? If you're the Chargers and you're a little bit miffed and you know he's not going to be on the team in 2020, use him up. He's going to break down in week 15 like he does every damn year anyway. And now you got Austin Eckler with fresh legs who can help you get hopefully through the postseason. Of course, after you have bought a bundle of Sage from the one and only Sage Goddess.
Shout out again, Sage Goddess. Yeah, I think he's in that RB2 range, so I think you're definitely playing him if you have him. Ryan from Facebook asked us, need help, and he sent in a lot of emojis, which, you know, that helps capture my attention here because there's a lot of questions.
Like a child.
Yes, I'm very need like sounds, colors, distractions at all times. Needs 2 for a PPR flex. Evan Ingram Mark Andrews, Josh Gordon, James White, or Devonta Freeman. I really like the two tight ends here, I think. Evan Ingram and Mark Andrews both seeing a ton of volume. Golden Tate coming back kind of throws me off a little bit with Evan Ingram, but at the same time, I still think he should be the target leader there in New York.
Evan Ingram is averaging 7 receptions per game, and the opposition is giving up. Minnesota is giving up an average of 6.8 receptions per game to the tight end position. I love Evan Ingram, and I'm not sitting Mark Andrews. I don't care. There's no way I'm doing it. The only one and James White, just like real quick. Rex Burkhead is out, and everybody loves James White this week because the Patriots aren't going to take their foot off the gas. But give me a break, guys. Just give me a break a little bit.
I just saw we have a question in the chat. James Thrash or Kevin Curtis? I mean, that's a throwback there for those Eagles receivers. I did see another one too. Grabbed my attention with all the emojis. I'm throwing this at you off the cuff here.
Oh, hit me.
Dak Prescott or Andy Dalton?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to be a matchup advocate like my colleague Brad Evans in this one, mostly because I think this Green Bay-Dallas game is going to be so low scoring. I am going to lean towards Andy Dalton in this situation. I think that Dallas is just going to be all Zeke.
I dig that a lot. And last one I think we're going to get in here. This is, again, another, you people are listening to me, which
they
is nice.
Figured it out.
Someone has to. Emojis in the chat. PPR flex spot. Pick one. Mecole Hardman, your boy DJ Chark, or the great Emmanuel Sanders.
Just one of those guys.
Just one.
I'm going to go with Mecole Hardman. Tyreek is not playing. This game has the highest projected point total of the week. I think it's something at like 54 or 56 according to Vegas. So let's throw out Hardman and see which one of these receivers gets lucky. Probably all of them will. There's enough. And Sammy Watkins, here's a surprise, a little bit banged up.
This has been the entire Sammy Watkins experience, right? He was like wide receiver 1 in week 1. Then he's like sub 40 every single other week. And now he's hurt.
A little bit.
Terrific. So,
do you agree with Mecole Hardman?
I do agree with you. I'm going to be talking about those guys in our Don't Care segment, but I think you'll see why I really like Mecole Hardman. Pretty easy answer.
You do care about Mecole.
I care about Mecole Hardman, but I don't care about a philosophical thing we'll be talking about. So we'll see to get to that later, but for now, keep hitting us up in the chat. We are listening to you clearly, and you're listening to us because of all the emojis. I love it. This is great. Back to you guys.
It's time for our first over-under. This is where we give our experts a player and a stat, and they decide if they'll go over or under that number. Dak Prescott is coming off his worst performance of the 2019 season versus the Saints last weekend. Well, he's at home this week against a Green Bay defense that will look to sell out against the run after what happened to them in Week 4. So, can Prescott throw for more than 265 passing yards today? Brad?
Heck no. The Dak attack is not going to be anywhere close to full effect. I'm taking the under and firmly in this one. I mean, you look at the matchup, as Liz already touched on, I think this is going to be a grinded out, lower scoring affair that's going to be decided in who wins the war in the trenches between Zeke Elliott and Aaron Jones. Tramon Williams, Jair Alexander, Kevin King, all these DBs have allowed below an 82 passer rate in their assignments. I think Dak will be lucky to touch 230 passing yards in this one.
Tank?
I mean, that's the thing. The Green Bay defense is giving up 188 pass yards per game, and I don't know if it's because of all those cornerbacks that you just listed off, or if it's the fact that at the same time, Green Bay's giving up the 3rd most points to fantasy running backs and the 7th most yards per game to RBs. And so when I look at it, I think they're going to feed Zeke like a sleep-deprived baby that's just allergic to sleep. Shout out Velasquez. So therefore, I'm going with the under.
Do we bring out the broom for you, Liz?
Bring out the broom. This basic witch is flying all through that studio on it. Absolutely under. We already talked about the way to beat Green Bay, not through the air, but on the ground. Also, this Green Bay defense is ranked top 5. This Green Bay pass defense is ranked top 5 in DVOA. Per Football Outsiders, they're averaging, giving up an average of 188 passing yards per week. They've also managed 12 sacks, which is important because Dak's left tackle Tyron Smith is not going to be active for this game, which means that could be blown up in not many good ways. A lot of pass-offs to Zeke Elliott, who will run all over Green Bay, or at least try to. Under.
All right, thank you very much, guys. We have another quick slant to discuss. The Atlanta Falcons are in Houston to face the Texans, and the Falcons are just looking for a win as they sit alone at the bottom of the NFC South, while the Texans are in a 4-way tie in the AFC. So we'll put 90 seconds on the clock, and we'll let Liz and Matt sort this one out. Guys, what do you think?
Well, I I think this game is particularly interesting, and we talked about this on the Yahoo Fantasy Football podcast, because this, to me, is a get-right game for two number 2 receivers on both sides, right? Calvin Ridley has done a whole bunch of nothing. Will Fuller hasn't met expectations, and frankly, neither has Nuka Hopkins. But Matt, I'm going to give it to you first. You want to talk about Will Fuller, since this was also part of an article you wrote earlier this week.
Yeah, we all wrote a group piece instead of our bold predictions. We did what we got wrong most coming into the season, and I had a lot of options to pick from, but I somehow ended up pretty far ahead of the consensus on Will Fuller this year. I had him at like wide receiver 23 when he's going off the board in the 30s, and that really hasn't worked out yet. He has yet to clear 70 yards in any game. However, the volume is still there. He's top 12 in air yards so far this year. It seems like every week he just gets narrowly missed for a long touchdown, but I think that comes this week against the Falcons, who are... I just hate the Falcons right now at this point in the Dan Quinn era. Like, legitimately, get them out of my life. They're the same mediocre offense every year that can't run the ball. They don't play up to their talent in the passing game. And their defense is like just the stone worst. They can't get any pressure on the passer, which would be great for Deshaun Watson. I'm done with the Falcons. Get them out of my life. But get Will Fuller and all these Houston guys into your lineup, especially with Kenny Stills officially inactive.
Well, you can, now that Matt took all of my time, you can get Will Fuller into your life, but also don't get rid of Calvin Ridley, because even though he's put up 2 duds in back-to-back weeks, I'm not stopping. Even though he's put up duds in back-to-back weeks, I think he's going to bounce back really well, because his coverage is either this rookie, Lonnie Johnson, I believe, whose 40 time is not great, and Jonathan Joseph, who's like 35. So this is a bounce-back situation for Ridley.
Alrighty, well, let's get to our phone lines. They've been buzzing all morning, so thank you for your patience. First up, we have Keith in France. Good morning, Keith. What's your question?
Bonjour, Keith.
Hey, so I have a wide receiver question. I want to know whether I should use Adam Thielen, Josh Gordon, or, after seeing Brad's graphic, Odell Beckham. Non-PPR.
Okay.
Interesting. It's come to this.
It has come to this. Now, I want to let Andy weigh in.
Please, Andy.
Andy, we miss you. What
Oh,
say
I see
you?
You cowards couldn't take this one. Huh? Too difficult for you. I get it. I actually, I don't know where anybody gets the courage to start Adam Thielen. Like, I get the argument, the squeaky wheel argument about both Diggs and Thielen, but I just think that Minnesota passing game is so broken right now. I'm going to have to see it before I want to roll out one of those guys. I'm still going with Beckham in this one. I understand and appreciate that it is a more difficult matchup. He is just, by orders of magnitude, the best player involved in this question, so I'm banking on him.
All right.
I'm going Josh Gordon because I'm a matchup advocate, and you can just toss around Josh Norman like a rag doll, and that's exactly what Gordon is going to do. He's yoked. Josh Norman is a shell of what he used to be. And, you know, you look at Norman, a guy that's given up a 121.7 pass rate, his assignments, 4 touchdowns. Gordon is so overdue. This is a game for him to really snap back with a vengeance. I think it's at least 70 yards and a touchdown. I honestly believe he has the highest floor of all 3 of these guys this week.
I mean, I think he has the best matchup of all 3 of the guys, but I don't know if he has the highest floor because New England spreads the ball around so much. You don't really know who's going to be the guy, and I think OBJ is always going to be the guy for Cleveland. So he may have a tougher matchup going against the 49ers, but at the same time, OBJ is that dude, one of the best athletes in the game. He's going to get a lot of targets, and so I think he's your safest play, especially in season long.
All right, disagreement.
Hope that helps, Keith. All right, next up, we have Matthew in Canada. Good morning, Matthew. How can we help?
For the second
Love it.
I just got to start off by saying that I totally agree with Matt about his assessment of the Atlanta Falcons. I also need them out of my life. That being said, I need 2 out of the following 4 players. This is non-PPR. Sony Michel, Alshon Jeffrey, Darrell Williams, or Frank Gore. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
Yeah, Frank Gore going to be the main man once again because Devin Singletary is inactive today, but not a great matchup on paper. Sony Michel, God, he sucks. He's bad. I mean, he's just so slow, man. He's like a golf cart out there with deflated wheels, yet he's going to get, at least probably a couple, maybe 4 or 5 red zone opportunities. Maybe
and Burkhead is out.
Burkhead is out. James White's going to go ham. That's a guy that you and I really like. But Sony Michel could easily fall forward, get in the end zone, but he only gets you like 60 yards. I guess I will do it reluctantly, but I'm going to side with Michelle based on the matchup and knowing that there's going to be some goal line opportunities.
Say you needed 2, right? So it's Gore and
Needs
Michelle?
2.
Oh, it needs
Oh, yeah,
2.
he needs 2.
God, do you go Gore or do you go Alshon?
That's the thing. I mean, when you're looking at Philadelphia, too, it's almost that New England sense where you know they should go off against the Jets, but who's it going to be? Is it going to be Alshon? Is it going to be Ertz? So I would lean more towards Gore and Michelle.
The guaranteed volume of Gore. Okay, you're convincing me. I'll go with the 2 running backs. Barons?
Andy.
Yeah, Brad, when has it ever bothered you that a player may suck, right? Like, you don't care about that. That's your
This is
brand.
true.
That's your whole brand.
This is true.
I'm with you on Sony Michel. I mean, it's been so ugly this year, and I think his best game is like 67 yards, but he's got to find the end zone in this one, and then I'm going with Frank Gore as well because he's going to see, I don't know, 25-plus touches.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, guys. We got to take another break, so go fill up your coffee, come back and join us for more. We'll be right back.
I need some croissants. Somebody hook me up.
Welcome back to week 5 of FFL. Every week, Liz Loza has some sleepers for us that can likely provide some fantasy damage. So, Liz, who you got for us today?
Well, I want to kick things off with a receiver in Cincinnati that Tank and Brad already touched on. Let's get a little bit deeper on Auden Tate. Since over the last 3 weeks, his snap share has grown from 41% in week 2 to 92.9% in week 4. More importantly and interestingly, his routes run have also increased from 16 in week 2 to 34 in week 4. He's obviously becoming a bigger part of this Cincinnati Bengals offense, for whatever that's worth. And that role will continue to grow in week 5 because John Ross is out nursing a shoulder injury. He is a big profile, right? Big guy, nice red zone target. We know that Andy Dalton needs those, and his matchup against the Cardinals is money. The Cardinals have given up 10 receiving scores so far this season. Tate is only $10 in Yahoo DFS. I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 or flex. I like his appeal, especially in standard scoring, because I do think he finds the end zone in this one. Second person, I'm getting deep this week, guys. Like, it is week 5. Let's make things happen. I'm going to talk about a person that'll probably make you throw up. It's Trey Burton. He is across the pond. He hasn't done nothing so far this season, but I like his matchup, and here's a shocker. I like that Chase Daniels is under center. I think that actually helps Trey Burton in this one. The Raiders have been without their safety, Jonathan Abram, which is he's on IR with a shoulder injury. So it makes sense that the Raiders are also allowing the 5th most points to opposing tight ends. Not only that, but they are the Raiders defense is giving up the 3rd most yards to the middle of the field. that is where Trey Burton comes in. I know Shaheen is in there. I know Anthony Miller could maybe do some stuff in the slot, but the fact of the matter is Chase Daniels has targeted in his limited data sample, but still targeted Trey Burton more than any of those other options. And I think that Chase Daniel knows this offense. He's been part of the Andy Reid system since 2013. That is a system that obviously favors the tight end position, and Chase Daniels does not have the arm or the athleticism that Trubisky has, but he does have accuracy. To me, that makes Trey Burton a prime target for him in London. So Burton's not going to have many shots. This might be one. So if you've hung on to him since drafting him in August or, early September, now's the week to use him. Finally, it is our job as fantasy prognosticators to see things before they happen. Like, I don't know, talking about Will Dissly in week 1 before doing a victory lap when he does something against the Arizona Cardinals, right? Maybe Dissly didn't do anything in week 1, but I put his name on your radar. I'm putting Antonio Callaway's name on your radar. He's coming back from suspension this week. Is he going to be eased in? Probably. Is Juice available? Yes. Is Hollywood Higgins available? Yeah. Those are slot guys, though. OBJ is on the other side. Listen to the matchup here against San Francisco. We know Jason Verrett's on IR. The 49ers lost Ahkello Witherspoon. He's not going to play this week. Emmanuel Mosley, who has played a total of 4 games in his 2-year career, an undrafted guy out of Tennessee, will likely see a lot of Antonio Callaway. This is a guy who averaged 14.7 yards per target in 2018. We know he can be a deep threat. So I think if you need a Hail Mary play or you want to watch someone be assimilated into an offense, Antonio Callaway is interesting. He's only owned in 4% of leagues. He may get lucky on a deep shot. More importantly, he is going to start becoming a part of this offense, and I think that Baker Mayfield has better rapport and chemistry with Callaway than he does so far this year with OBJ.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Some damage.
Let's put 90 seconds on the clock to discuss an NFC South matchup that will see Jameis Winston and the Bucs going up against a fellow former ACC foe in Teddy Bridgewater, who's leading the Saints in the absence of Drew Brees. So last week, we watched an impressive defensive performance from the Saints, while the Bucs hung 55 points on the Rams. So what do we think it comes down to in this one?
Yeah, actually, I want to send out to Barron's first because he's got a spicy hot take on Rojo, Ronald Jones, and I want to get his perspective on this real quick. Barron's, Ronald Jones last week, 20 touches, 82 total yards, found the end zone, a guy that's forcing a missed tackle on 26.4% of his touches so far this season. Are you buying that he should be in the RB2 class here in week 5 on the road?
Well, I'm buying him over the balance of the season, right? I don't think there's another player in the league who has improved more from last year to this year than Ronald Jones. He's competent, right? Which is a start, a nice start off of last year. Not face planting anymore, looks super decisive, looks really strong. This is not the friendliest matchup. New Orleans, a bit of a lopsided defense. They've given up a lot to opposing passers. They've given up very little to opposing rushers, especially over the last 3 weeks. They've seen guys like Chris Carson, Zeke Elliott, they aren't giving up much at all. The 6th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. So I don't think this is the best spot for Jones. But again, over the balance of the season, I do really like him.
Yeah, I got him ahead of Phillip Lindsay today. I got him ahead of Josh Jacobs. I think he's in that back end.
Dog, why are we wasting all the time talking about Ronald Jones when the best matchup is with the Tampa Bay pass offense?
That's what I was going to tee you up
Second
on.
most points for the QBs, 4th most for the wide receivers. Like, what we want is for Tampa Bay to push the issue on offense. Therefore, Teddy Bridgewater gets to run it back. Because right now they're being really conservative with Bridgewater, but at the same time, that Tampa Bay run defense is tough. So they'll have to use Kamara in the pass game, get it to Mike Thomas, Cook. Cook has a really good matchup right now, but Teddy Bridgewater needs to sling the pill. If he does that, we can get a sneaky shootout.
This game's going to be lower scoring than anticipated.
But we get a shootout if Tampa Bay scores, and then they run it back with Teddy.
Off that double nickel, they're going to disappoint.
What was I seeing, though, about Kamara? This is not a good matchup for Kamara.
Pass game-wise,
okay.
it is. Just not as a rusher.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay gives up the least yards per rush.
They're going to get him in space.
Yep.
This could be a 7-8 catch game for him today.
Okay. All right. Well, it is time for everyone's favorite sound.
Is it?
Or noise, I should say, as we move Brad over to the wall. Now, if you're a believer and you choose to follow the advice of Mr. Evans, listen closely. And, of course, we always offer our condolences if you listen from week to week, especially last week. Anyway, all right, it's time for Fade the Noise.
Yes, let's go ahead and get into it. 4-2, 2-4. Oh, yuck. A little flip-flop action there. I need to make some money on the spread. So, again, I'm basically destitute. I'm living in a gutter right now. If I had hair, I'd sell to a wig shop. Unfortunately, I did that years ago. So let's go ahead and move on to this week's picks. So we've got Green Bay, we've got Dallas, and a total of 46.5. The Cowboys laying 3. I think this is a fantastic line. I don't think there's a whole lot of value here. This game is going to come down to a field goal kicking contest. But the theme of today's show has been a war of attrition. We expect this to be a lower scoring affair than people may view on the surface. And you look at right now, 54% of the public spread tickets in terms of the over-under is on the under. I am following that as well. You know, Green Bay 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 against the Dallas Cowboys, actually over in 5 of their last 7. And in this series, it's gone over in 14 of the last 20. But again, the strengths of these two teams are in the secondary. There's going to be a lot of clock eating between Zeke Elliott and Aaron Jones, which will lead to a lower total, probably in the lower 20s overall. So give me the under there. Moving on. We got a matchup under the prime time lines for the Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs. Heavy public spread ticket action right now on the home team. 64% of the public spread tickets, in fact, on KC, which means, yes, fade the majority, not necessarily fading the noise here. I'm taking the points. 11's a hefty number, and I think the Colts could backdoor their way into this. Jacoby Brissett tied with Patrick Mahomes with 10 passing touchdowns on the season. Their vulnerabilities defensively on both sides of the rock in this one. And you look at some of the trends here of late. This line opened at 8.5. It got steamed up to 11. Indy 12-5 ATS in its last 17 matchups against Kansas City. KC, meanwhile, 2-7 ATS versus Indy in their last 9 games at home. Again, that's just too many points. Give me Indianapolis plus 11. Then moving on, finally, we've got Cleveland. We've got San Francisco. Fascinating matchup here. We've seen some interesting line action as a result of it. 44% of the spread tickets right now on San Francisco, but the line has climbed. It opened at -3 and it's up to 4, which gives us an indication there could be some sharp money on San Francisco, and I think that is the smart money in this case. I'm taking the Niners here, minus the 4. Cleveland, yes, 5-1 the last 6 road games ATS, but San Francisco 4-1 ATS in its last 5 games against the AFC. Even down Witherspoon in that secondary, there's enough stoutness defensively for the Gold Panthers to strike it rich in this one. I think they cover and win by a touchdown. Now go out there and make that money, but not quite yet because we got a prop bet. And I've actually been hitting these lately. And Aaron Rodgers, oh, look at that fine lip raccoon. It's wonderful, isn't it? Mike Ditka would be like, bow down. That's spectacular. An upper lip hair right there. 265.5 pass yards for Aaron Rodgers. Yes or no? Hells to the no, this isn't going to happen. You're taking the under on this all day long. Dallas, every single one of the corners in this defensive backfield, 81 or below in terms of passer rating allowed. And the Cowboys collectively giving up just 6.2 yards per attempt. This is going to be another game in that 225 to 240 range through the air for Aaron Rodgers. That's why I have him barely as a QB1 in 12-team leagues this week. I think this is going to be a battle, again, between Jones and Zeke in the trenches. Now, go out there and make that money, Team Huevos, or fade the noise. It's been profitable. Back to you.
Good stuff. All right, let's get to some social questions. Matt and Liz are down in LA handling what's buzzing online for us. What you got, guys?
The internet is buzzing with a few more questions on our @Yahoo Fantasy handle, #AskFFL if you want to get those in. First batch we have here, Terry on Twitter says, talk to me, Liz. So I'm just going to not say anything. Sammy Watkins or Sony Michel in a PPR league?
So I understand because this is PPR, you want to target Sammy Watkins, except, and especially in a matchup with we want a piece of this Kansas City Chiefs offense. But, I mean, Sammy Watkins had 3 receptions last week, 5 the week before. His receptions have dwindled every week, and now he's a little bit banged up. I'm going to go I'm not going to go with conventional wisdom here. I'm going to go with Liz wisdom, and I'm going to say Sony Michel puts himself in a nice bounce-back situation. The matchup is too good. I understand it's PPR, but you still want your players to score touchdowns, and I think Sony Michel has a better shot at doing that.
You got your Liz wisdom, so you don't need anything from me. Moving on. The next question here, that dude on Twitter. Lots of emojis, which, again, if you're in the chat room, throw some emojis in there and you'll catch my attention. This is actually a lot here. Help, please.
Yeah, no wonder.
Julian Edelman, Sammy Watkins, again, James White, Mecole Hardman. He's got to start too. Are we running back Mecole Hardman in this one? I think I'm.
Yeah, I'm going Hardman and Edelman in this one.
We are on the same page.
Yeah.
That is what I would do as well. Don't be messing around with James White. I'm not in on it this one. And that brings us to our chat questions. And Travi Cash _NYC on Twitter sent in a bunch of sirens. I'm a big fan of the siren emoji. And asked us, D.D. Westbrook,
Of course you are.
John Brown, or Jamison Crowder. We know my stance on Jamison Crowder, which is no. Expect better from your life. And I think John Brown is definitely the answer. Josh Allen's going to be playing in this game. Tennessee Titans always give up some production in the secondary. Brown's getting the volume, getting the air yards. It's all there. I'm locking in John Brown for only $15 too in our Yahoo deal.
What people do, I'm with you on this one. The Jamison Crowder experience is not one that I want to be a part of, but I think people don't realize that this season John Brown has seen double-digit targets in 2 of his last 4 games, and one of those he had 8 targets. So people are trying to target Jamison Crowder because of volume, but in fact, John Brown has had decent volume, and he has much higher big play potential. So I agree with my colleague here, Matt Harmon, that Smokey is your answer.
Hell yeah, smoke them if you got them. A few other there's a lot of emojis now. It's almost a little overwhelming.
Oh, no.
Xbox One
Gave him
player
too much of what he
0-0.
wanted.
Yeah, that's always a problem. Tom Brady or Jacoby Brissett here.
Oh, come on. I'm starting Tom Brady.
All right, cool. Well,
hey, I don't know if you know this, Matt, but Arrowhead's a tough place to play.
Arrowhead is a tough place to play, and we're going to throw it back to Sunnyvale now. Keep hitting us up in the chat. There's a lot of time that we have to spend with you people, and we do love you for that.
Thank you, guys. Now, remember, if a last-second play or a missed kick costs you your matchup this week, tell us about it. Just send a video to @YahooFantasy using the hashtag FFLBadBeats, and Andy Behrens will try to make light of your dark situation, as he always does. Brad and Tank have made their way over to the monitor to help some more folks out with some roster disputes as they make their pick over which players you should roster. Take it away, guys.
I always knew that Andy Behrens was part of the Luke Skywalker team on the light side, not the dark side. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Let's start off with Matt Moore here. He needs 2 to flex and a half-point PPR Tank. Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate now back in the mix. So he's not the main man. Cortland Sutton, he's going to see Casey Hayward. We don't know on the road against the LA Chargers, or Geronimo. Where'd he go to school? Oh, the University of Illinois. Yes, we're terrible at football. When's basketball season begin? But he's going to maybe be more of a featured role because Devontae Adams.
But they still have MVS.
Yep, what do we do?
Jimmy Graham, but I think Cortland Sutton, you think that they're going to probably be playing from behind. He's going to get a lot of targets. Has a really tough matchup, but I think there's going to be some volume there, but even though he's going to have to battle with Manny, so I'll probably go with Cortland here. And then Sterling, just because Sterling has just shown that he can be the man. Golden Tate, he'll probably roll into the slot. He's going to probably get some involvement, I think, for them to kind of lean on Sterling and Ingram a little bit more. So I'll probably go with these 2. And Geronimo, we already expect that game to be low scoring. He'll probably have to get in the end zone to justify it. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I love the University of Illinois. It's been very good to me.
Yeah, it's going to be good to you today, though.
No, hell no. I'm going to go Sterling Shepard and Sutton. Sutton, the most touchdown appeal. And the Broncos always play the Chargers tough, even a winless version down Bradley Chubb. Let's move on and do the real Red Falcon here. And let's get Andy involved in this one. Andy, I hope your brain is working at a very high level because I'm going to throw a lot of names at you. We only need 2 in a flex and a half-point PPR league. Terry McLaurin against the Pats. Josh Gordon, same game, different name. Mohamed Sanu on the road against Houston. Auden Tate, a popular player on today's show, against Arizona. Or Nelson Aguilar against the Jets, needs 2.
Yeah, Nelson Aguilar is a hard no. I don't know what he did last week to work his way into this question, but that's a big no for me. I'm going to go Josh Gordon, I think, is the easy one here. I expect him to have a get-right week. And then I'm going to go Auden Tate. Yes! I'm going to go with your guy. I like
Andy Dalton season.
I feel like obviously McLaurin is the better player, but it is a nightmare matchup for him. So Auden Tate is going to probably see 8, 9, 10 targets in this one. The guy's 6'5". The matchup is terrific against Arizona. I think he's the upside play.
This is why I love fantasy football so much. It's week 5, and we're talking about a dude
Auden
nobody
Tate.
even knew who the hell he was a couple of weeks ago in Auden Tate. The unpredictability of it's great. All right, Uzair Salim needs 2 flex and a half-point PPR. Demarcus Robinson, great headshot there. Going against the Colts. Jordan Howard off a multi-TD game going against New York and the JETS Jets. Damian Williams back out of cold storage against Indy or MBS. And what should be an expanded role, though, that Dallas Cowboys secondary just doesn't give up many big plays.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I can't do in the one-chip challenge proved it for me, that I can't trust Philadelphia Eagles running back. So even though Howard had that explosion last week, I just can't do it. So with me personally, I kind of like MVS this week. So I'm going to go with MVS.
Right.
And then also, I'll go with Damian Williams.
Okay, see, my difference here would be I'm not going MVS. By the way, it's Valdez-Scantling. We can't even fit it on there. There's
that's
no
why we just
G
say
on
MVS.
there. I mean, if you can't fit the name on there, I mean, that just is an indicator you shouldn't trust him. But I'm going to go Damian Williams as well, but I would also go Jordan Howard. So we'll display your guys in Tank because I love you so much.
Yeah, it works, and I'm right.
All right, back to you.
I can feel the love all the way over here. Thank you, guys. We have to step aside for another quick break, but when we come back, we'll go over or under on a certain Tampa Bay running back. Stay tuned.
Go Stanford.
Yeah.
Cardinal.
How many times can you say Illinois in one segment? That's exciting.
Oh, that seriously, it doesn't get much better than that. I mean, we had a Matt LaCosse sighting. My head would have...
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Let's go over or under now on Bucs running back Ronald Jones. He's averaged over 100 total yards per game over the past 2 weeks, and today he faces a Saints defense that's allowing 4.3 yards per carry to RBs. So the question is, will Jones go over or under 79.5 total yards today in the Superdome? Andy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just to repeat, I do endorse Ronald Jones over the balance of the season. He's been super impressive. He's actually hit this total in 3 of his last 4 games. However, when we look at the opposition here, we look at the Saints, in each of their last 3 weeks, they have not allowed a running back to reach this total, and they've seen Zeke Elliott, they've seen Chris Carson, they've seen Todd Gurley, so they've seen some good ones. Do I expect Ronald Jones to do what those guys couldn't? No, I don't. I think he finishes under.
Brad?
Oh, you wimp, Andy Behrens. I'm taking the over on this one. Look, you make some astute points there. There's no question about that. I mean, the Saints rank inside the top 10 in fewest fantasy points allowed to the running back position, but it's a bit deceiving because they've given up 4.3 yards per carry to rushers this season, and Tampa Bay has been tossing dudes up front. Number 12 right now in run blocking efficiency. I am buying into Ronald Jones and his game-playing evolution. He looks fast, he looks stronger, he looks elusive, and he will find a way to just barely creep over this total.
Matt?
I want you starting him in the Guru Challenge as well, by the way.
No, I can only accept one challenge at a time from you. Andy Dalton's enough.
Matt?
I will give credit to my partner here, Liz Loza, to my right side, that Ronald Jones has looked much, much better this year. He is improved, but the reason I think he's going to come under this total today is he's still not getting enough passing game usage. 3 targets in 3 games. He's 3rd on the team running back depth chart in terms of routes run. Dare Agungawale or whatever, he's still ahead of him in terms of routes run. Peyton Barber's running more routes than Ronald Jones. So in this game today, I think he comes under that total. I just don't think you can ever trust this kind of floor week to week.
All right, well, we'll kick things right back to Matt as we switch from a running back to receivers, specifically ones he likes and doesn't like. Matt?
Yes, the people will be stunned to know that I really like Allen Robinson this week against the Oakland Raiders in London. Now, we know that the Raiders, obviously, they get thumped by slot receivers. I think they're top 3 in yards allowed, and they've allowed 7 touchdowns to receivers lined up in the slot. And, of course, that would make you think, well, maybe Anthony Miller, this is the time for it to happen. But Miller is really not playing enough, and Robinson has actually taken 40% of his snaps out of the slot this year. So we could see him get working in the middle of the field. I know Liz pointed out earlier with Trey Burton. And Chase Daniel, I think, is stable enough as a passer to feed Allen Robinson, who's already getting a ton of volume. 25% of the team targets, 36% of the team air yards. He's going to have that big week at some point, and I really think this is probably it against the Raiders. He's been a pretty solid floor play so far. 6+ catches in 3 out of the 4 games and more than 7 or more targets in every single contest. So I'm playing Robinson this week in daily fantasy at a nice bargain, under $20, and I'm using him wherever I have him in season long, which, again, I'm doing that every week. So, I like to stay consistent here. Now, one player that I don't really like this week, and I know there's going to be some attention on him, Geronimo Allison. Of course, he scored last week. Devontae Adams, not going to play in this contest. We know that. So the theoretical approach here would be, well, okay, more targets for Geronimo Allison, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. He's more that interior receiver, and Green Bay has actually been pretty poor out of 11 personnel this week. Their success rate is below the league average when they use 3 wide receivers. I think they probably use more 2 tight end sets in this game, especially because I agree with all my colleagues who have said that I think this is probably going to be a slow, defensive-heavy game. Dallas is pretty good in the secondary. They're top 5 in terms of net yards per attempt allowed. And Green Bay also has played really well defensively, too. So I don't see a lot of scoring in this game. But if I'm going to, throw a flyer on somebody with Adams out, I kind of think I'd play Jimmy Graham a little bit. I'm a little intrigued, even though he's like this close to being done. And this segment is now done because I am done with all of my points about Geronimo Allison.
Thank you, Matt. From receivers to a man who made a living trying to cover them, our very own Tank Williams handles all the daily fantasy baller on a budget plays for us each and every week. Isn't that right, Tank?
Yeah, and before I get into it, I'm going to just let you know that we're trying to play for the season-long championship. We don't worry about these weekly standings. If you ain't first, you're last, and so that means everyone that isn't in first is last. We'll see why I'm saying that in a little bit. But my quarterback this week is Teddy Bridgewater at $23. Now, it's one of those things where Teddy and the Saints are going against the Bucs defense, which are first against the run. So you look at it at a game flow standpoint where he's going to probably have to throw the ball, and they're giving up the 13 most points to fantasy quarterbacks. So I look at Teddy to have to sling the ball around a lot, whether it's to Kamara or Michael Thomas on short throws, and I think that's how he's going to get his yardage. Hopefully Tampa can push him on the other side. This becomes a sneaky shootout, then it really pays off at $23. Now, at running back, I'm going with the Leonard Fournette monster going against Carolina because Carolina has been tough against the pass. They've been rushing opposing quarterbacks like crazy. And so what's the best way to protect your young quarterback? By feeding that Fournette monster. He had, 29 rush attempts against Denver last week. He's still involved in the pass game. And when you get all that volume for $23, it's hard to pass up on the Fournette monster. Now, going that wide receiver, I have Chris the Godwin at $24, and he played like a god last week against the Los Angeles Rams. And the thing is that he's averaging 8.5 targets per game. The Saints are giving up the 4th most points to fantasy wide receivers, and this dude is only $24. I believe he's like $6 less than Mike Evans. But as we've talked about before, there's Auden Tate that's also on the slate. That's your really ball on the budget right there at $10. But if you're looking for someone that you know is going to get guaranteed volume in a good spot where he's going to get targeted on high percentage catch routes, Chris Godwin is your man. Now at tight end, this is more of your dart throw and not a person that you would throw in your cash game lineup because he only averages 3.5 targets per game. But the reason I like Dawson Knox besides him just going straight juggernaut on the Bengals a couple weeks ago, stiff arming cats into like their grave, is that he's going against the Tennessee Titans, and they're giving up the 6th most points to fantasy tight ends. So if you're looking for a dart throw, this is a guy who's a big body dude. I think Josh Allen's gonna have to lean on him to try to avoid that Titans rush, and he's only $10, so it's worth the dart throw. And that, my defense, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles at 15, because who's playing for the quarterback for the Jets?
Luke Falk.
There you go.
So let's check out those Guru Challenge standings.
Yeah, let's.
Oh, look at Borges.
If you ain't first, you're last.
So yours truly got the win in week 4. That bumped me up a little.
Yeah. I'm setting myself up for an amazing comeback. It starts this week.
Look at this
You're living down in your
commanding
nickname,
lead.
bro. You're going full tank for 2-0 right
This
now.
is why Andy's staying in Chicago today, because he doesn't want to brag in person.
No, I do. I do
Oh,
really
you do
want to
want to
brag.
brag. Okay, go for it.
Oh, yeah, I'm all about it. I have a 100-point lead over Tank. Has this ever even been achieved?
Do you know how bad you're gonna feel when I come back too, though? That's the worst part about it.
I've already experienced that. I hear the footsteps already.
Oh, goodness. All right, well, it is fun to talk a little smack. I like this. Let's keep it going. All right, well, it is time for another quick slant. This time we'll put 90 seconds on the clock for an AFC North battle between the Ravens and the Steelers. Now, both teams are coming off losses, but you can throw the records out the window when Baltimore and Pittsburgh face off. Liz and Matt, let's give this one to you guys. What are you looking for today with these two?
I'm taking a look at the running game on both sides of the ball, because last week the Baltimore Ravens folded under the pressure of a full Chubb, and we heard about it all over social. So, it was interesting because Earl Thomas even admitted that he came up and didn't chase after Nick Chubb on that 80-some-yard touchdown because he didn't want to pull a hamstring. And that, to me, like, Nick Chubb's the real deal if Earl Thomas is like, nah, I ain't going to catch him. It ain't worth it. But that's also reflective of what might be going on here. So, Matt, we have a situation, a backfield in Pittsburgh that is a complete timeshare. James Conner's been banged up. Jalen Samuels is also, he's playing fewer snaps, but both players, they rushed the ball 10 times apiece and drew 8 targets apiece. So
yeah, I think number one, let's always remember that all engagement is good engagement, folks. So negative hate for Nick Chubb, we're fine. It doesn't matter. But on this Steelers backfield, I really think the whole offense is interesting because last week we saw them against the god-awful Bengals defense. Throw a lot of wildcat looks out there with Jalen Samuels.
Yep.
I mean, those little pop passes counting as completions. Give me a break with that. I'm not really trusting Samuels as a guy that, you can play right now unless James Conner is, going to miss a ton of time, which doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Oh, just give us Benny Snell already, folks.
No, please
Yes,
don't give
do.
us that. I'm much more interested in watching this receiver core for Pittsburgh. Mason Rudolph not throwing the ball downfield. We know Juju's a little banged up, but Deontay Johnson is a guy who's starting to pop to me when I watch these Steeler games. He got wide open for a touchdown against the Bengals last week. The Ravens secondary, too, has had some holes this year. They're top 10 in yards per pass attempt allowed. So I'm watching Johnson for sure as someone that I'm, picking up and maybe playing in deeper leagues.
Juju might be okay because Brandon Carr did get roasted by Jarvis Landry last week. Roasted for over 100 yards. So we'll see if Marlon Humphrey chokes anyone out this week,
Tough when you're getting roasted by Jarvis Landry. You hate to see it.
Thank you, guys. We've got to take another break, but when we return, we've got our fantasy freebies of the week. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live here on this beautiful October morning. Let's get into our fantasy freebies segment. These are players who are under 25% owned in Yahoo leagues, but they could really help you out here in week 5. So Brad, let's start with you.
Yes, I'm extremely envious of the curly locks of one Dawson Knox, and he's somebody I would certainly put in my lineup today and then confidently trot him out there as a TE1 in 12-team formats. Look, this is a player that has really flourished here in recent outings. On the season, 13 targets, 8 receptions, 144 yards, and a touchdown. But he's number 5 in yak per reception. He's athletic. He's getting those chunk gains after the catch, averaging 18.0 yards per reception. And this week, you get Tennessee. The Titans allowed the 5th most fantasy points at tight end position, surrendering 5.3 receptions, close to 60 yards per game, and 3 touchdowns. I think there's a really good shot for him to exceed my expectations and tuck well inside the TE top 10.
Andy?
Yeah, if you're in any kind of PPR format, I want you to take a look for Nyheim Hines right now. He's going to catch a bunch of passes in this one. He had a couple games last year with 9 receptions, actually led this backfield for the Colts in total snaps last week with 35, caught 6 balls. If this game goes the way we think it's going to, Indy falling behind by a couple of scores, having to play some catch-up in the second half, that's all Hines, because Marlon Mack only gives you like 1 catch a week, whether you need it or not. I think this game script gets away from Mack, goes very much toward Hines. I think he's going to lead that backfield in snaps and possibly touches again. I think he can be an RB2 in PPR.
Tank?
Yeah, my guy is Tyler Eifert, and I mean, it's pretty simple. He's playing against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if you remove the Buffalo game, he's averaging 5 targets a game. Now, I would like my guy to have a little bit more action than the 40-year-old version, but at the same time, everybody scores against the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't think Tyler Eifert would be an exception. So even though he doesn't get the volume, I mean, I think he's going to get the play when it comes down to it. So Tyler Eifert should be your man today.
All righty.
I just hooked them up. You know what I'm saying?
You did.
His day should be full today.
Full DMs. Well, we know you guys have some questions, speaking of full DMs, so we'll ship it on down to LA with Liz and Matt and check the interwebs. Hey, guys.
Yeah, the chat room, you guys flood it right now with all the emoji questions, and we will answer them off the cuff with, you know, all of our great knowledge here. First one up, full PPR flex, pick 2. Jordan Howard, your boy Ronald Jones, DJ Moore, or the great Josh Jacobs for the Oakland Raiders.
Pick 2.
We got to pick 2 here. I'm going to go with DJ Moore and Jordan Howard.
Yep, I'm in complete agreement. I know Jordan Howard doesn't see a lot of receptions, but he did last week. So I like the matchup there as well. So yep, I think we agree.
There we go. I like a little desperation here from Edwin on YouTube. Chris Thompson, mouse emoji, or Auden Tate, tiger emoji.
I'm a tiger. Team tiger.
Yeah, don't be messing around with any mice or any Washington running backs.
Or any rats.
Yeah, that's much better. It's probably a rat. I don't know. It's hard to say. Okay, well, we got a siren emoji, the poop emoji, and the crying emoji here from someone on Facebook. Help, please. I need 3 wide receivers, full point PPR, T.Y. Hilton, Julian Edelman, Tyler Boyd, Calvin Ridley, or DJ Chark. Here's where I'm going with.
How many of these?
3. So I'm going T.Y.
Hilton,
Tyler Boyd,
sure,
and Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm going Ridley and Hilton for sure. Listen, I will take a one-legged Hilton against Kansas City any day over a lot of people. I don't care if he's banged up. They've saved him for this matchup. The point total is too high not to bite. What was the last? Who are you fading basically?
DJ Chark and Julian Edelman.
Yeah, because of the matchup. Sure, got it.
Another one we have here, Hearts, Hand, and Squirrels. Help, please. Pick 2 to start. Chris Thompson, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, and Le'Veon Bell. I mean, yikes.
How many 2?
Yeah, I think 2.
Gordon.
I'm going to go with Gordon and Bell. I don't really like Bell this week, as I talked about earlier, but I think when you're lining up with like one of the Denver Broncos backs and Chris Thompson, I don't think I'm going to mess around with that. Now, crab emojis here. Pick 2, half PPR. Landry, I'm assuming Jarvis, Sutton, Ridley, or Dorsett. You like Dorsett this week?
I think it's too iffy. There's too much stuff going on. I like Ridley. I have him down for a touchdown. I think he catches 6 balls for 70-some yards and a touch. I think I can see that production out of Ridley. Just pick 2 though, right?
Yes.
So the other one is Dorsett, big play opportunity. You like that one?
You need a ceiling. I think that's the way to go. I mean, Washington just can't stop the pass at all.
Yeah.
I've seen this guy, Chuck, on Facebook ask this question 100 times so far, so I'm going to get it in here. Geronimo Allison or DJ Chark Jr., and I am going to go with Chark.
DJ Chark.
Mentioned earlier, I don't like Geronimo Allison, so.
Listen, Chark's matchup is not great against James Bradbury, and that's why we're fading him, but I even faded him last week against Chris Harris, and he didn't do much, but he almost had a lot of big plays, and he is certainly emerging as not just this team's number one, but like a legit NFL number one.
He's been really awesome this year. Definitely something I didn't think I saw coming. So I really think that's about all we probably have time for here in the chat room. Thank you guys so much for flooding with the emojis. It's nice to have someone in my life listen to me. That is really appreciative. And of course, make sure you tune back in later today during both the early game and late game halftimes. Liz and I will be here chopping it up as usual, so tune.
Chomping it up. We'll be chomping it up.
I'm not chomping, we're
You said
chopping.
You said chomping.
Did I say chomp?
Yep.
No, it was
Good
good.
thing about DJ Chark, baby.
I have to talk all day, so this is going really well so far. So make sure you tune into our halftime shows later.
We've got another over-under for you. This time we're talking Giants wide receiver Golden Tate. He's making his Giants debut after a 4-game suspension to start the season. So today against the Vikings, will he go over or under 4.5 receptions? Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to will this to happen and take the over. I need it. I'm starting him in a bunch of places. Obviously, this is a guy with 4 different 90-catch seasons on his resume. We know he's a high-volume target magnet. And then you look at Daniel Jones, the last couple weeks, he's completed 46 passes, and some of them have been to guys that you didn't even know were still in the league. I think so much of that workload is going to go to Tate. 6 players have already hit this total against Minnesota this year, and I think Tate definitely becomes the next.
Tank?
I mean, really, the only reason I went with the over is because Andy did. I mean, if you
That's all you need.
My
That's all you
picks
need.
were so bad last week that I just needed some moral support. I mean, the way you look at it is that usually the top 2 wide receivers for the Giants end up getting over, 5 catches. And I think that's probably going to be Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram. So it's not really looking that good for Golden Tate. But at the same time, I think just because the defense may be focused on those other guys, he may just get off. So either he does what he needs to do and goes over and we're all good, or he goes under and then I go choke Andy out and then I go to New York and put Tate in the garbage can like Percy Harvin did to him a few years ago.
Liz?
So I'm going under because Andy didn't. So basically, I did a little math problem in this situation. Quarterbacks facing the Vikings have averaged about 36 attempts per game. Daniel Jones has a completion percentage of about 69%. Nice. So he's also had 23 completions in back-to-back weeks. Let's figure he has 24 completions. So who's going to catch him? Well, we know Evan Ingram is going to catch about 7 balls. Not only is that how much he's averaging per week, but that's also how many receptions the Minnesota Vikings defense is giving up to opposing tight ends. Then you got to figure Sterling Shepard catches another 6 or 7. Fine. Now we're at 14. Gallman's going to get 5 balls, by the way, because also the Minnesota Vikings are giving up an average of 5 receptions to running backs per game. Now we're at like 19. Darius Slayton's going to sneak in there because as Andy says, that's just what Daniel Jones does. Now how many balls left? Not 5. So going under. Boom. Math. Got it.
That's a lot of math.
That's too much math for fantasy football.
A lot of numbers.
Math is fantasy football.
It's not wrong. We care a lot about how your fantasy team is doing this season. We truly, truly hope it's going well for you. But there are some things that Liz and Matt just don't care about, specifically as it pertains to the Sunday night game between the Colts and the Chiefs. Hey guys, care to enlighten us?
I would love to. And I think the thing that I don't care about that a lot of people seem to care about is like breaking down these 2 receiver cores. Because here's the deal.
People care about that?
People care about this.
Right.
People are always asking, like, we've got a lot of questions about Mecole Hardman in the chat today.
Yeah.
And here's the answer. If it's a Chiefs wide receiver, you play him. That's just the answer. Because if they've got Patrick Mahomes, he's the Lord himself there behind center. He's great. And with the Colts, the answer is, are there named T.Y. Hilton? Yeah, then you play him. But if there's anyone else, no, don't be messing around with Paris Campbell, Deion Kane.
He's not playing this week, though. He's out.
Yeah, so that all these guys.
Definitely don't mess around with him.
Don't even mess around with Devin Funchess when he gets back. Just don't bother at this point with these 2 receiver cores. The answers are easy, but I think there are at least some things that are of intrigue in this game.
So I think, here's what I don't care about, the fact that Arrowhead is a tough place to play, except I have to care about the fact that Arrowhead is a tough place to play. And I know that Jacoby Brissett is all over the place as like a nice sleeper because Because, by the way, he's tied with Mahomes for touchdowns at 10. He's been pretty good. He had a back-breaking interception last week, but all things considered, he has certainly overmatched expectations, except Arrowhead is a tough place to play. I went back, and there has not been a quarterback who has managed a multi-touchdown game since Phillip Rivers in Week 15 of last week. Last week, Lamar Jackson, 0 touchdowns. Tom Brady in Week 20 of last year, that's the postseason, right? 1 touchdown. Andrew Luck, 1 touchdown in Week 19 of the postseason. Walk it back to Phillip Rivers, Week 15. He had 2 touchdowns and also 2 interceptions and 5 sacks in that game. I just am not sure Brissett's going to be able to keep up this touchdown clip that he's been on, and so I have walked away a little bit from advocating for him so strongly, especially with a banged-up T.Y. Hilton, though, again, like I said, I'd rather take a one-legged T.Y. Hilton than pretty much anybody else in the matchup.
Yeah, terrific, because I have to start Jacoby Brissett in one league, so I feel really good after hearing all
That's also something I don't care about.
Could have seen that one coming.
Yikes. Well, with that, we have to step away for our final break of the show. But there's still more roster questions to get to, so we'll be right back.
We out here.
Hey.
We out here.
Welcome back to week 5 of FFL. Let's get one last check of our social channels so we can help you guys out before we get out of here. Matt and Liz, who are you helping?
Well, I'm being told that the chat is like right behind me here, so that's exciting. Remember, get your emojis in, and we will answer those questions as they come in. Liz, we have one from Facebook to start us off here.
Okay.
About hundreds of emojis. We got the hearts, and they want to know, pick 3 in a PPR. Will Fuller, Auden Tate, David Montgomery, Mecole Hardman. Dan, this is for Dan from Facebook.
Dan from Facebook. So basically you need to fade one of those, and I think we are both in agreement that you're going to fade Auden Tate. Yes, he's a great dart throw, but you don't want to have to throw a dart if you don't have to throw a dart.
Yeah, I would agree there. I think your other options are solid enough. Zachary Tron, the notorious chat screamer, is back. He's 4-0. He says, oh my God, I still don't understand how you're 4-0 and you ask all these atrocious questions. Jeff Wilson Jr. or Alexander Madison in a half PPR.
Oh my
like, what are you doing? How is it already
in
this
this
bad?
league.
How is it already this bad? I think you go
Alexander Madison, because you're matching up against the Giants, and maybe Dalvin Cook is like, cool, I'm down.
That's enough for me. Yeah. I'm tired.
The last quarter, they just put in Madison, yes.
There we go. All right, we've got an angry face here. Juju or Robinson full PPR. Thanks for definitely not including the first name for Robinson. That's confusing. I'm going to assume Allen Robinson, and that's definitely Allen Robinson against the Raiders for all the reasons I talked about earlier.
Already on him.
And we've got a clown emoji here from Twitter. Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins. Liz, you kind of had a nice little note
Well,
about
that's in DFS. Like, I do like Kirk Cousins in DFS this week because he's so stinking cheap. And I do think that we're leaning into the squeaky wheel gets the grease situation. The matchup is too good. Here's also, like, Kirk Cousins is, you know that song? You may not know that song. There's a country song called, like, Dance Like No One's Watching. Kirk Cousins doesn't ever dance and assumes everyone's always watching. But in an instance that nobody is watching, he will dance. And I like him in this one, though I probably will start Dak Prescott over him in season long.
I think that's probably for the best. This is a good question from Facebook. Jeremy asked us with prayer emojis and that like flushed one, which I like to use a lot.
The blushing one?
Yeah, blushing. I don't know. It could say a lot of different things. But Larry Fitzgerald or Calvin Ridley. We talked about Ridley a decent bit on the show so far, but
Larry Fitz has been pretty much money. Beard is out again in this matchup. So I'm going to go. I think Larry Fitzgerald has a higher floor, so I would probably go with him in this situation.
Now, how about this one? Yeah, I agree with you. Larry Fitz all the way there. How about this one here? Ridley or Stephon Diggs with a lot of yelling emojis, it looks like.
That one is tough. Two greats, two duds, a bunch of you know what? I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. He did warm up last week. He converted 7 of 7. So what about you?
I am
against the Bears. All right, Stephon Diggs.
And just last note here before we toss back, 2 things. Number 1, Josh Murphy says, you guys are awful. Always go back to the Chubb versus Ravens defense. Thanks for watching anyways, Josh. We appreciate you. Hate views are still views, so that's all that matters. And, of course, you can tune back into us 2 chuckleheads all day during the halftime show.
All day.
All damn day. We're going to be here early game halftime, late game halftime. Come in, especially during the second halftime shows.
There's like two games on.
So you need something else to do while you're like basically almost passed out, drunk for
Bring
whatever.
your wings, bring your beer.
Are we going to have wings today?
I think we're going to have Chinese food, which is not a good one.
Well, yeah, come back. We'll be having a gut bomb on air. It'll be great.
Bubble guts at halftime.
Well, thank you guys. Now, before we say goodbye, we're going to hit up the phone lines one last time. So let's start with Neil in Canada. Good morning, Neil. What's your question?
Hi, guys. Make it quick. Half-point PPR. I need 2 running backs. Austin Eckler, Carlos Hyde, Chris Thompson, Duke Johnson. Thank you, guys.
Huh, interesting. Well, the first one's easy. It's Austin Eckler all day. And then it comes out of Hyde, Thompson, or Duke Johnson. I'd probably go slide advantage to Chris Thompson in a PPR league. What about you, Tank?
I like Chris Thompson. I mean, you think the Redskins probably playing from behind. Colt McCoy won't be able to push the ball downfield, so he's going to have to check down. And you don't have your tight ends, which means that Chris Thompson's going to get doubly the targets.
Hopefully so.
All right, next up we have Dave in Wisconsin. Good morning, Dave. How can we help?
Hey, you've answered part of my question already. So what I've got left is a half-point PPR, and I need Sammy Watkins or Alshon Jeffrey.
Okay. Let's go to Andy.
Yeah. That's a tough
Andy,
one.
What do you think?
Yeah, give me Alshon in this one. I don't think either player is fully healthy, but I prefer the touchdown upside for Alshon. That seems crazy when Watkins is obviously tied to the Kansas City offense, but DeMarcus Robinson is the play today in Kansas City.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm with Andy on this one. I mean, it's really a coin flip in my estimation, but I'm going to side with his very well-informed and educated opinion.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just fixing my fantasy lineup before lockdown.
I'm tweaking ranks. I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Sure. Let's go. All right, we do have time for one more caller. We have Brian in Chicago. Good morning. How can we help?
Morning, everyone. Half-point PPR. I have a running back and a flex. LaShawn McCoy, James Wright, Alshon Jeffrey, or Jordan Howard.
Oh, Shady McCoy.
Yeah.
Again, Colts get up 10th most fantasy points at running back position. He's at the top of the pecking order there, though it's going to be a timeshare backfield and a total with 56.5. What else do you want?
Yeah, go for the points. Even if they're not in the dome, go for the points.
Well, yeah, we don't bring up Mahomes in a dome anymore.
Right?
Just like we don't bring up Nick Chubb against the Ravens either.
Andy, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I fully agree with that. It's got to be Shady McCoy. I mean, he's in line for 12 to 14 touches every week, rest away.
All right, well, we are running out of time. So before we go, what's one thing we didn't mention today that each of us will be watching for? We'll start with Matt and Liz. What do you think, guys?
I'm going to skip today, actually. I'm going to go to Monday night when my San Francisco 49ers, whom I am a lifelong fan of, face off with the Cleveland Browns. I think one thing that's so great about the 49ers is their defense is absolutely balling out. They're the only undefeated team left in the NFC, so I really want to see if the Browns can kind of stay on offensive track and whether this 49ers defense is actually really legit and could cause a lot of problems.
I'm excited for the Vikings game, to be honest, against the Giants. To me, this is a litmus test game because if Mike Zimmer refuses to air it out in this situation and in this matchup, it ain't ever going to happen. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on.
All right. Andy, what are you watching for today?
Yeah, for me, this is the Bears-Raiders game. This is a blow-up spot for David Montgomery if he gets the kind of workload that he had last week.
Please, fantasy gods, make that be true. I put him on the lames list for a reason. Reverse psychology, fade the noise. If the TD hat trick doesn't come this week, I've got no juju. Period. I got no juju.
It's going to be sad for us, too. Like, we all need this for Brad.
We suffer with them.
Yeah,
I need it, man.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Tank?
I'm just trying to get out the guru basement. That's it.
100-point hole, bro.
Hey.
Good luck. Good luck. It's fun to look at you from up here. Well, that will do it for Week 5 of Fantasy Football Live. Thanks for tuning in. We're live each and every Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Holla!